What's the worst piece of financial advice somebody has given you? So when I was 24, I was financially struggling. I had a job that worked me a lot of hours, but only paid me $10 an hour. My parents talked me into buying a brand new 2004 four-door Honda Civic. The pre-interest price tag on it was about $25,000. A few weeks after getting it, my hours got regulated, and it took one entire paycheck to make the monthly note on it. I could not afford the insurance on it. I very quickly realized my parents were bad at money. I think that's one of the hard things to swallow when it comes to growing up. Your parents might be bad with money. I ignored a lot of my parents' financial advice, and I'm so glad I did. They both made decent money, but borrowed against their house, bought cars they didn't need, and paid for other ridiculous things. They basically live paycheck to paycheck. My aunt took me to a car dealership when I was looking to buy my own first car. I was looking at the clunkers I could afford, but she said I should be looking at the new cars. She said, the total price doesn't matter because you make monthly payments. I suddenly understood too well why she had always been so financially unstable. I had a car dealer say this to me once when I asked the price on a 4 to 5-year-old car. The actual price doesn't matter, it's the monthly payment that you really need to know. Haha, I'm good mate, but cheers anyway. I walked away wondering how does he possibly sell any cars that way? But after reading this sub, maybe I'm wrong. Went to a dealership once when I was young and was told by a car salesman that you are always supposed to be paying for a car, making payments. I knew better. Car salesmen are such scum. Automobiles are a product that depreciate as soon as you drive it out of a dealership. It doesn't make any sense to borrow a lot of money for something that goes down in value so quickly. That said, depending where you live, cars are usually a necessity, so it's not always irresponsible to get a loan for a car. But you shouldn't really be getting a car you can't pay off within 5 years. It amazes me the way some Americans think they have to drive the newest model and are willing to go into deep debt for it. It's not uncommon for people in my area to live in a mobile home that is about to collapse in on itself, but drive a $65,000 pickup truck. Once you cut up the credit card, you don't have to pay it. My cousin is not doing so hot. I'm pretty sure there are warrants out for his arrest in several states. I work for a bank. The amount of times I get customers tell me I just got a phone call saying I owe you, but I cancelled my card. I tell them we never received a notice that they cancelled it. They say but I cut it up. Dude, if cutting bills up would solve anything, life would be great. I wish we'd bring back the home economics classes they used to teach in public school. Teach kids the basics of a checking account, how credit cards work, how to take care of an apartment house, how taxes work, etc. I still have to deal with grown-ass adults who don't even understand how tax brackets work. Don't worry about a career. Armageddon will come before you finish high school. My parents, Jehovah's Witnesses. Being raised a Jehovah's Witness really stunted my social and emotional growth, and them saying stuff like college is a waste because you're learning worldly things and the end is coming soon. Blah blah blah. Wow. They really thought the world was coming to an end. They still do. No inheritance for me from them or my grandparents. It's all going to the church. They said I can have their furniture and stuff though. The world is definitely going to end, so you don't need any plans or money for the future. But the church does. Makes sense. That an emergency fund wasn't necessary when you can always get a payday loan or use your credit card. He wasn't joking. Somebody needs to book this man's act. He knows how to generate interest. My cousin's car broke down and he didn't have enough savings to get it fixed. He took out a $600 payday loan. He's still paying it off. Almost 2 years later. How this is still legal baffles the F out of me. $1,000 on a credit card at 19.99% will take 26 years to pay off if you only pay the minimum payment. What's a payday loan? I'm from Europe and pretty sure our banks wouldn't be allowed to do that to people. Basically legal loan sharking in the US. They'll give a fast loan to just about anyone, but they have interest rates of sometimes up to 500%. They prey on young people or people uneducated in finance or people who hit a serious emergency. There are several stories on Reddit of people taking out a payday loan and end up spending years paying them off or having to file bankruptcy. You aren't actually paying 500% unless you miss the deadline. If you make the deadline, it's not much worse than the interest on a credit card. They are also 100% transparent, listing every type of loan and fee out in the open, unlike banks that will obscure them to surprise you with later. Personal finance really needs to be a mandatory class in school. The amount of people that graduate and don't know the first thing about managing money is crazy. You would think a lot of this stuff would be common sense, but apparently not. Just get it at Rent-A-Center. I had a coworker that got pretty much everything there. It's only $20 a week, and they'll replace it if it breaks. $20 a week for how long? Oh cool, so you're paying more than double for it? Got it. I still remember calling up a Rent-A-Center to see if it was remotely worthwhile to rent a computer for a couple of months way back in the 90s, early 2000s. It was a couple $100 a month, which was not even remotely worthwhile, even in my preteen mind. My ex-husband does this. Wonders why he's still paying off a $2,000 couch 5 years later, on weekly $100 payments. Interest so high Everest can barely touch it. A $2,000 couch. That thing better be massive. Spend it quickly, or it'll get stolen. Coming from someone with a history of losing and blowing their money, yay. This is kind of a known issue that keeps people in a low economic class. The poor live in present, spend as soon as they have it. Middle class live in the future, save and invest to build a better tomorrow. Rich live in the past, they romanticize the days when they struggled to achieve their high position. I know someone who had that issue because she kept her money in a bank, linked with parents, when she was underage, saved several $1,000s from birthdays, Christmases, and chores, only to have it stolen by her mother. Pretty much traumatized her, and her mom never apologized. Figured she was better off spending it right away as not to lose it. I had a friend who warned me the government might empty out my bank account one day, so I shouldn't stockpile money. This friend has never known a life where he wasn't one paycheck away from homelessness and spent much of his life couch surfing with his girlfriend and kids. One of my uncles once told me that I never really had to pay my phone bill. He suggested that I simply jump to another carrier and let the first company cut you off. His life has turned out exactly as you'd imagine. Dude declared bankruptcy, got bailed out by my grandparents, went broke again. Then people cut him off when he conned a few family members and friends into some kind of financial scheme that smelled fishy from the next province. Last I heard he was mooching off some old lady in a trailer park in Florida. These stories always end in a trailer park in Florida. Just get another credit card. My friend who hasn't worked in 3 years and is currently just vibing with his new credit cards he somehow got approved for. A friend's family taught them to take out as many store cards and credit cards as they could, and as long as the minimum was paid, they'd be able to live a luxurious lifestyle. They were almost $100,000 in debt when they finally told me, from dozens of cards and interest, then did not want to discuss it further after I offered advice, lawyer, counseling. It's simply how their parents lived, life on credit far beyond means. I could not live with that stress. It's so normal for some people though. My number one rule is never spend more in a month using credit cards that can't be paid off in that month. Interest rates on credit cards are downright predatory. I have a question coming from a place where credit cards aren't mainstream. Why not use debit cards? That way you can only spend what you have and never get in debt. I have to wonder why people think it's a good idea to have a credit card to begin with. If you don't got the money in your bank account, you can't afford it. It's really so simple. If you need to use a credit card for anything outside of car repairs, medical bills, home repairs, you shouldn't be using it. A relative tried to recruit me into Amway. He wound up stuck with a garage full of their products. My mom joined and ended up having to buy their junk continuously. They also promised to pay her. She never saw a dime from them. I was being pressured to join Amway by my first new friend. When I moved to a new city, I always thought it was odd that his apartment was filled with Amway products when I had never heard of the company. As he was trying to convince me to buy into it, he explained that they're required to buy a certain amount of product every month to stay active, and then it clicked like, RIC now. No, the word that Amway is a scam has been out for decades. How do they still exist? What do they sell? Household cleaning products, beauty supplies, vitamins, etc. It's a pyramid or multi-level marketing scheme. Lots of people are just really stupid with money. Doesn't matter what advantages they get or how many chances they have, they are determined to live week by week in perpetual debt. My sister recently got divorced and sold the house. Ended up with a good chunk of change. Did she save it? Deposit on a new place to start again? Go back to school so she could get a better job? Nope. Pissed it all away. Massive amounts of it going out on the town and paying for all her friends. She will now very likely never own another home and is stuck doing work she doesn't like. Probably for the rest of her life. And the way out was right there. I just don't get it. We grew up in the same house and learned the same lessons. But yeah, some people incite me to go to a real expensive restaurant where you can spend easily $250 without drinks at a time I only had $700 in bank account and had not paid for my car, groceries, and stuff. Because come on, we only live once. I've gotten into frequent arguments with a girlfriend of mine because we have different opinions on the meaning of I can't afford that right now. She would want to plan a trip or something, and I would tell her I can't afford it at the moment because I have a mortgage, bills, car payment, and I'm saving for a wedding. She couldn't understand that just because I have money in the bank doesn't mean I can just afford to do whatever I want. She lives very much paycheck to paycheck, so whatever is in her account is safe for spending. Let's go to the casino and double your paycheck. More like doubling your sadness. I work at a casino. I can tell you that it is pretty bad advice, even if you know what you are doing. Counting cards is more or less useless now, since they have auto shuffler. The count will never skew enough to matter. If you want to actually make money, poker is where you want to play, if you are good. Go to college. You'll figure out what you want to study later. But if you don't go now, you'll never go. F that. What kind of fool spends $80,000 without a goal or purpose? I feel personally attacked by this comment. I'm a teenager, and I work part-time at a grocery store. All of the adults who work full-time have a degree, but are still working minimum wage. There's nothing wrong with working minimum wage, but it's kinda sad that they spent so much money on education they don't use. A lot of people are convinced that they won't be able to get anywhere in life without going to college, because guidance counselors and parents and the like all paint that picture through your entire life. There's plenty of great opportunities out there that don't require college at all, but no one ever talks about them. I wish I would have waited to go to school until I was done being in my 20s. I seriously blew basically a free ride, so I could hang out with my friends and party instead of going to class. A lot of the hate I have for myself is because of this, and how I was so obsessed with winning the approval of people I don't even talk to anymore. Lease a car. Don't buy used. Lease car price $25,000. My used car I drove for multiple years without maintenance, aside from tires and oil, $3,000. I had a friend that swore by this. Every year she would lease a new $60,000 car. I asked her one day why not just buy it, or a lesser priced vehicle, you make like almost $100,000. She looked at me confused and said, "It's New York, I have to flaunt it, like I got it." Now she's struggling financially after losing her job and has nothing saved. I have two co-workers that are educated, but lack any common sense with finances. Both refuse to save for retirement even though they are 50 years old. Their belief is that they will live off the government. Example: food stamps, medical and low-income housing. About every 2 years, they both buy brand new cars and charge everything on their credit cards. Both make well over $90,000 per year. I remember 10 years ago people told me not to buy a house, that it was a waste of money, and renting was cheaper. I didn't listen, and bought my house for $250,000. Now comparable homes in my neighborhood are selling for $650,000 to $700,000. The rent in my city has more than doubled, almost tripled. Today, if I had listened to that advice, I would not be able to afford to live anywhere near my city, renting or owning. A 1-bedroom apartment in my city costs more to rent now than my mortgage payment on a 4-bedroom house. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below. Like and subscribe to the channel for all future videos. And click the bell icon if you want to see videos as soon as they are released. Bye for now.